Okay, today special on the menu is something that every long traveler, digital nomad, and folks that just want to spend summers in Europe should know about. This is the Schengen Shuffle. Okay, now before you picture, one of those viral dance on TikToks involving passports and baguettes, let's just clear this up. The Schengen Shuffle isn't about rhythm. It's about strategy to be in Europe for a long time. Okay, Manasa, talk us through this.
I know. So let's set the scene here, folks. First, what is the Schengen area? Now, think of the Schengen area as if it is Europe's all access pass. 29 countries with no internal borders. Once you're in, you can hop around like it's one giant Euro Disneyland, France to Germany, Spain to Italy, no passport stamps, just beautiful road trips and maybe some overpriced cappuccinos. I don't know. But here's the catch. If you're from the US, Canada, Australia, or another non-EU country, you just get 90 days out of any 180 days to quote unquote play inside what we would like to call it Schengen land. Now, apparently, that's known as the 90/180 rule. So once these 90 days are up, it's au revoir. You cannot reset by leaving and coming back the next day. It's a rolling clock. Every day counts. And yes, the day you enter and the day you leave, they count too. You cannot sneak out at midnight and hope the guard doesn't count you as you're left before breakfast. So you can't do that. So now that the scene is set, let's get down to what the concept is about.
Okay, here's a concept. Enter the Schengen Shuffle. All right, let's walk through like a case study, an example. So let's say we have this tech-savvy traveler. We'll call her Jess. She's living her best life in Lisbon, doing all her sun-soaked videos for her travel blog. And suddenly she realizes, oh, wait, I'm heading towards day 90. And remember what country she is from, right? Now, Jess doesn't pack it all in and go home. Actually, she's got to move. So she's got to slide in and out of Schengen to a non-Schengen country. So, for example, she can head to UK, Albania, I think Montenegro for another 90 days. And then she'll just waltz right back in when the rule says that she can. And that's the Schengen Shuffle. Now, like any good dance, it takes timing, ordination. I say a spreadsheet because you want to track the days. You want to track when you leave and when you come out. But really, because really it's not a hard reset. It's a rolling 180 days. So every day you spend inside the Schengen countries, it will count backwards. So you make one misstep and you might find yourself banned for 5 years. Not exactly the souvenir that you want, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, from what we have heard, we are going to talk about some popular shuffle destinations. So, where do people escape to when it's time to shuffle out? So, I believe some crowd favorites are the UK, where you can stay up to 6 months visa free, or Ireland, which apparently dances to its own tune outside the Schengen. And there are some others who head for the Balkans, which is Albania, Montenegro, Serbia, maybe. Countries that are as stunning, as they are Schengen free. Now, Turkey and Morocco apparently also make the shortlist if you want a mix of culture and sunshine, maybe culture shock, I don't know. So a typical year for, let's say, Jess, who is a digital nomad, might look like this. She could spend 3 months in Amsterdam, 3 months in Albania, back to Paris in the fall, and then a Turkish winter on the coast. Wow, living the life. I mean, I could be Jess. I want to be Jess. You're basically slow traveling your way around visa math. And Jane and I, we love math and spreadsheets. It is a bureaucratic hopscotch, but I suppose there's a payoff. I don't know. There's endless adventure, of course, if you can keep out of immigration fines and stay within the rules of the law always. Right, Jane?
Yeah, and so we really getting to learn about this concept, and we'll tell you where this came from. But what I'm gonna say is, before you lace up your travel shoes and start shuffling, understand this: the Schengen shuffle isn't about outsmarting the system. It's really about respecting it, right? You're following the letter of the law, but again, you need to track your days precisely. And we've actually seen a few apps like, I think it's Tripsy or Schengen Calculator, that will do some of these heavy lifting for you on top of your spreadsheets. Now, do not rely on border guards to catch mistakes, because if they do, it's usually bad. Yes, remember the 5 years that I talked about. Overstaying, even by a couple of days, can mean fines, deportation, or really some very awkward conversation that ends with not Europe for you until 2031. So keep those entry stamps neat, your spreadsheets tidy, and remember, timing is everything. One misplaced flight date can turn your grand Euro adventure into a legal nightmare, meaning you need to give yourself time between the shuffling as you're sliding in from one country to another. Anything else, Manasa?
No, I mean, this is so much fun. But the Schengen Shuffle might sound like a quirky dance, but really, it is one of the smarter ways to experience Europe long term, if that is your plan, while staying completely on the right side of immigration law, which Jane and I insist that you do. It's, of course, about rhythm. And, we talked about it 90 days in, 90 days out, repeat, but you need to do it right. And then you can get to live like a European local without ever registering for a visa, I suppose. Now, these rules and regulations keep changing. If you're listening to this, 5 years down the road, make sure you know if these rules and regulations are still the same. So next time you need an excuse to maybe sip tea in London or bask in an Albanian sunset, just remember you're not escaping, you are shuffling.
So, one thing I want to say is this is not always the kind of stuff that we talk about, but when we hear things from our clients, we kind of like to look into them, especially when it mentions immigration, living abroad, taxes, and that kind of thing. So, today's episode was actually inspired by a conversation Manasa had with one of her favorite millennial clients who's been contemplating the digital nomad life and alerted her to this catchy term, Schengen Shuffle. And of course, Manasa, being who she is, she thought this was funny and informative and something the IMC listeners will enjoy hearing about. So now you know a lot about the Schengen Shuffle. And when we learn more, we'll be back to talk more about this concept.
Absolutely. And of course, thanks, Jane, for the shout out to my client.
Sure.
I'll be sure to send them a link to this episode. But to all of you here, thanks so much for listening to the International Money Cafe. And if you liked today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with maybe your wannabe digital nomad buddy or your favorite travel buddy, and maybe practice your next border dance in the mirror. Just don't do it at customs. Trust me, they don't find it funny at all. So we'll be back for more. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.